What day was I hungover?
All of them sounds like. Pick one.
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, it was our fault. We made a mistake. Spotter said it was clear. I wasn't clear, and, I didn't want to tear my car up, tear his car up either. I respect everybody, and I demand respect. And, I apologized to the guy when he came over the car, explained to him what happened, and then he took it to another level when he started calling me an idiot and whatever else. And I don't appreciate that. I'm not going to take it. I told him how I feel. I called him out. He didn't show, and so, I'm good with it if he's good with it, but I'm not going to be disrespected by no means.
Yeah, I guess I had a dinner date at Applebee's last night that I didn't find out until it was too late. It's a shame. Love their riblets and boneless wings, but...
Hey, folks. Welcome back to Applebee's. This is your tired as shit, too much racing podcast. It's your host, Brian, with your other hosts, Ashley and Rob. Folks, how we doing on this lovely Tuesday afternoon?
Alive and thriving. How about you, Truelove?
Quite the opposite.
Well, you guys both spent the weekend, or the week rather. You're there for like a whole 6 or 7 business days down in North Wilkesboro for the big show.
I'm exhausted. My body hurts. Yeah, I'm struggling.
But was it worth it?
I would say yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I would feel like shit like this forever. Maybe not forever, but a couple days.
Hell yeah.
Experience, yeah.
Well, there you go. That's the show. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you. No, we got shit to talk about. I want to hear all about this, guys. I know I've been talking to you the whole time. You guys have been down in North Carolina, but yeah, we don't really have a plan today. To be perfectly honest with you, we're a little different than normal, but there's so much to go through. And again, you guys were on the ground for this event, so I'm really curious to hear just what the experience was.
For sure. Let's talk about a couple other things before we get into that big segment. There's going to be a lot to talk about.
Sure.
I think we should talk. Let's get a little indie stuff out of the way, since Rob, I know this is a big week for you, being the big IndyCar fan on the show.
Oh, it is.
That. I want to touch on the Landon Huffman stuff a little bit, but let's
oh shit! I forgot about that.
Yeah, let's start off with the Indy chat first.
Oh yeah, relatively safe week. Really exciting qualifying. Very high speeds. Pretty much the whole field was over 230 miles an hour. Alex Palou getting the pole again, breaking Scott Dixon's record with a big old 234 and change average. That's what I'm fucking talking about, folks.
That was going to be my question. Was that the actual full-on pole record that was beat?
Well, Indy's weird because they do different days of qualifying. The actual qualifying 4-lap record is Ari Leyendyke's. He got that in 97, I believe.
I thought that's when they weren't with them using natural aspect.
Sorry, 96, excuse me. He went 236.7 or something like that.
Okay.
He also got a single lap of about 239. Which was fucking insane. Yeah, and then the next year they brought in the normally aspirated cars, and it dropped about 30 miles an hour, and everybody was bummed. But yeah, this is the fastest 4-lap pole speed we've seen. Again, Indy qualifying is weird, but yeah, breaking last year's record that Scott Dixon put down. These Ganassi cars are just fucking fast. Good God. Also, lots of big drama with Graham Rahal getting bumped out of the race and then getting bumped back in when poor Stefan Wilson... not going to be racing after a little dust up with Catherine Legg in practice yesterday. Really nasty wreck, and it couldn't happen to a less deserving guy. But
it sounds like he's gonna fully recover. It's not like he's paralyzed or anything. At first, I know they were talking about backboarding him out and all that. And
yeah, you know how it is. Anytime you see that stuff on TV, it looks terrifying. But yeah, it's just because medical technology has come a long way in the past 20, 30 years. Particularly in the past 20, 30 years. But, which, by the way, if you haven't watched that Rapid Response documentary or read the book with Gary Trammell and all them, I recommend doing that. That's a pretty cool look at the safety program in IndyCar racing and racing in general, and just how they kind of learned how to put people's feet back together in the 80s since everybody was getting their shit torn up.
Interesting.
But yeah, Stefan's got I don't know if you guys know his story at all. His brother got killed at Pocono a few years ago, and Stefan sort of carried the... torch for him, especially at Indy, and he made the show on merit this year, just by the skin of his teeth, and then to have that happen, and then Graham Rahal to be allowed to jump into a Chevrolet and kind of carry the torch for him is pretty surprising. But hey,
So give me a little education on Graham Rahal. Obviously, I know he's Bobby's son, but I mean, is he one of those deals where he's just getting a ride based on his name? Has he actually performed in his career, or what? He's
kind of like Marco Andretti, to make another direct comparison to a son or grandson that just didn't quite have it. Graham's fine. The Rahal team has never been like a Penske or a Ganassi or a Patrick Racing or one of the big time teams.
Yeah.
Certainly not in a long time, and missing the Indy 500 is a Rahal family tradition. This happened to his dad literally 30 years earlier in the first year of existence with the team. Also, that was the same year they switched over to Honda, so if I remember correctly. So very similar storylines here. So at least his dad he's a shoulder to cry on, or was anyway. Now he's back in the show. But, yeah, he's pretty good. He's won a few races. The biggest one probably being that race at Fontana we talked about a few weeks ago on this show. That absolute piece of insanity that happened at Fontana. Last year, Indy cars were there. Graham won that race. And I think he's got a couple others. But, yeah, it's one of those deals where, like, I feel like he has all the pressure in the world to live up to the family name. And just for whatever circumstances, hasn't really been able to do that, and the clock is certainly ticking. There's a lot of stuff in the media right now about him even leaving the family team at some point. He's not ruling it out, which is that means things aren't going that well, in my opinion, if you're talking about quitting the family team to go to greener pastures. But are there other pastures for him to go to? I don't know. I guess we'll see. Watch this fucker win the Indy 500 in somebody else's car, though. It's going to be hilarious.
I'll be watching. I'll have it on. I'm not gonna know what the hell's going on, but I'm excited to watch it all pan down. That's for sure.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
I'll be probably listening to it on the radio in the parking lot at the 600. So we'll see.
Oh, that's right. You'll be at that. Yeah.
Oh, you're going to the 600 too.
Going? Yeah. I'm exhausted just thinking about it. But.
Hell yeah. Oh, that rules.
And then, like I said, I mentioned wanting to get into the Landon Huffman stuff. So Saturday night, while Ashley and I were still at North Wilkesboro watching.
I need a beer for this one. Shit, Lord.
There was some short track racing at Hickory, which I definitely kind of wish I was there now compared to some of the heat races we saw. But Landon Huffman, who I've had my interactions with him on social media. He's bought some stuff from me. He's a really nice guy. Drives for Dale Jr.'s vodka company. He's running a late model team out of his dad's old shop. He was racing at Hickory, where I guess he's had some issues with the track itself there.
Yeah, he's had a pretty rough year with Hickory this year. There's been a lot of he wasn't allowed to run a twin race there because of a tire change, and it was just a lot of kind of fuckery, but continue.
Mm-hmm. So one of the mains there, as the story goes, Annabeth Barnes Crum and Landon Huffman were kind of getting into it back and forth a little bit on the track. I think the story goes she got into him. He kind of nudged her out of the way at one point to pass her back. She tried to right rear him and spun herself out, and then under the caution ran twice the speed of everybody else all the way around the track and smashed right the hell into the back of Landon's car, taking him out of the race and also doing more damage to her car than she did to his.
Oh, yeah.
And then, meanwhile, in the spotter stand, Annabeth's husband cold-cocked Robert Huffman, Landon's dad, broke his nose and started stomping on him. I don't know a whole lot about these people. From what I gather, they're supposedly proper Jesus-loving, God-fearing folks with a lot of money who come in and race like complete fucking trash bags.
Aren't they always?
Kind of seems how it goes with some of these God-fearing folks.
Well, you might remember Jake Crum from getting banned from tracks over 1.5 miles for sending Ryan Ellis up into the fence. Same deal, right hook him. Maybe he taught his wife a lesson, or maybe she watched some old YouTube highlights. But
was that in Xfinity or something?
It was a truck race.
Truck race? Okay.
I don't know if that ban still stands, but I feel like Hickory is NASCAR sanctioned, so he's probably gonna get another little call from the office at some point, and hopefully those fuckers don't see the track for a long time. This shit's unacceptable. unacceptable, man. On track is one thing, but to, cold cock a guy and be a total pussy about it. Again, I wasn't there, wasn't part of it, but again, you know how my feelings on fighting are. Square up and do your thing. And this doesn't sound like that's what that was. And good God, I hope NASCAR brings the hammer down.
Landon just released a video on YouTube, like literally a couple hours ago, so I haven't had a chance to watch it, but I definitely plan on watching that after the show is done, kind of explaining his side of things. And I have not seen any sort of reaction from Hickory or anybody else yet as far as what's going on with these people. But, if I was Landon, if these people aren't banned from the track, I would take my business elsewhere. I mean, his other car, he had 2 cars in the field that night. His other car ended up winning. And, Landon's, it seems like he's a pretty popular dude, and he's a good driver. I don't know what other options are near him to run as far as the local short track goes. I know Hickory's seems to get a lot of attendance and is pretty well known, so it's not like you want to leave a track like that. But, I mean, shit, I don't want to be on a track with people like that either,
Yeah.
So.
Well, he's had a couple starts in the Cars Tour this year and has acquitted himself decently. I think people are noticing him, so maybe he'll have some more places to race pretty soon. But, what a fucking dumb situation that is. A little more Bowman Gray than Hickory, I guess, but...
Yeah. So that was the other action happening in North Carolina this weekend. But the action that we saw, Ashley and I at least, we did make our way to North Wilkesboro. But Ashley, you should start this off because you were there a few days prior to me getting there, so you saw a little more action than I did.
Okay, you want me to make words? Hold on.
Ashley's got to wind up here real quick.
Oh, fuck. I'm dying. Jesus. I feel like really hungover today, even though I didn't drink an ounce of alcohol yesterday.
I was going to say, it's Tuesday now. Sunday was 48 hours ago.
Folks, we're fucking old now, so it is what it is.
I spent like 12 hours on a Greyhound last night. That was supposed to be only like 7 hours. And it was about 32 degrees on that bus, so... I got home at like 3:30 this morning.
Now you've got pneumonia.
The Greyhound rabies or something, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I went up last Monday, and then we went to the track Tuesday for what was supposed to be the ASA race with Chase Elliott. We got there early just to kind of walk around the track. First day there, figured it'd be pretty chill, so to give us a chance to like check out all the work that they've done. And man, I had like a goofy ass smile on my face the whole time just walking around, seeing what a great job they did.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
Sprucing that place up, like.
It was cool looking and had a vibe when it was shut down, so I can't even imagine what it was like to actually be there this time.
Yeah, and they really put in a genuine effort to like make it nice and functional, but keep it as old looking as possible. Like fresh paint everywhere, but like all the old hand painted lettering and signs everywhere.
And that fucking scoreboard too.
Yeah, the scoreboard was cool. The whole weekend they had the results of the 96 Cup race up there until I think the truck race. But, so yeah, just spent Tuesday walking around checking out everything. Like the Winston Cup Museum in Winston-Salem had a trailer set up there with like a little mini museum in it. They had a bunch of old cars that they brought out and had all the merch trailer, like pulling up to North Wilkesboro and seeing Cup merch haulers lined up was like the first moment where I was like, holy shit, this is real.
That's awesome.
But yeah, and then until it fucking rained that night. But
so what do you do in a rain out in the middle of Wilkes County?
Well,
Ashley,
I'll tell you what, there's not much shelter there. We at one point hid, when it was just kind of drizzling off and on, we hid under one of the suites. There's a little covering. And then it stopped for a little while. They were drying the track, like, oh, we'll venture out to the merch haulers and just kind of walk around and kill some time. And as soon as we got out the gates, the fucking hell hath no fury weather rolled in. And I was waiting for a fucking funnel to drop out of the sky any second, like, very ominous. And then the bottom dropped out, and there's lightning everywhere, and we're trying to, like, get back in the gates to go find shelter, and the little old ladies at the gate said, nope, you're not allowed back in. The track said you have to shelter in place. So now I'm standing in an open field with nothing but merch haulers and lightning everywhere and being told to shelter in place. So I found an abandoned sunglasses hut who had already packed up and left for the day and hid under a metal tent in a lightning storm until they called the race. I was like, well, fuck, if I'm gonna die, let me die in North Wilkesboro.
Hell yeah.
So that was Tuesday.
Well, they eventually did get some racing in.
Yeah, the next day. Yeah, we came back the next day and they had all 3 races. They had the Cars Tour and the ASA and whatever the fuck that other third one was. But that was a long day and I got very fucking drunk that day. Because, 3 races.
Yeah.
A lot of time to kill. But those late model races were fun.
They were very good. Butterbean McQueen.
Woo.
And then old Bubba Pollard.
Yeah, that was cool to see him one too. Butterbean's mom, for some reason, was in the grandstands instead of in the infield during that race. And when he won, she was like climbing the fence in front of us, like screaming her head off.
That's fucking awesome. So let me ask you this: was there a similar crowd between the Cup race and the late model stuff, or was it more of like completely separate crowd? Because I know how it is up at Loudon when we have modifieds up here for the Cup weekend. It's almost a different crowd comes in on Sunday once the modified folks take off. But
I don't know. I mean, all my friends that were there, a lot of them came for like the whole week. But
yeah. I guess there were a lot of Cup drivers in both of those races.
Yeah. I mean, there was still like a good turnout, but it wasn't anything like Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And it also, like, I went, to the Wendell Jr. race there last summer, and it wasn't anything like that either.
Yeah. So when did Brien show up?
I got there Friday afternoon. I pretty much got there right for Cup practice. I might have missed the first couple minutes, but so I guess since I was the one who was driving all weekend, let's get into all the anxieties and fears that I had about the weekend getting into this. So
I've been waiting to do this therapy session for a week now. So
well, that's the thing is it actually was not really that bad at all. So
0%.
Yeah, I mean, Ashley was keeping me updated all throughout the week, and I can't say I was really too nervous about the first few days being too crazy. I drove right up to the track Friday. It's practice and stuff, so I knew it wasn't going to be sold out, so I wasn't really too worried about it. But since our friend Jeremy, who shout out to Jeremy, dude was awesome, such a great host, and he and I had a kick-ass time Sunday hanging out, but we'll get into that later. Jeremy had the parking pass, so I drove separately, and I drove right up to the track and parked literally across the street for $20.
No kidding.
And zero issues. So I got there, saw some practice, kind of walked around, wanted to see everything, and was, like I said, was kind of in awe of just the track itself and what I was seeing. And in addition to the aesthetics of the track itself, we should also talk about the actual geography of the track. Now, a lot was mentioned prior to this race how this is an actual track with elevation changes, which for an oval isn't exactly a normal thing, and it is definitely the most unique oval that I've ever been to.
It's pretty wild, right?
Yeah, especially like when I got there Friday, we were all sitting right in turn 4, which was right behind or right in front of where that infamous big Winston Cup mural is and all that, and it looked cool. But the next day, coming in through turn 2, turns 1 and 2 is really where you can get the best idea of how weird the geography of that place is, because it is very, much more pronounced how much higher turns 3 and 4 are compared to turns 1 and 2, and just in general, like, it's just weird track, and it's really cool, and there was more banking to it than I was expecting. So that was just, it was really cool. Like, it's a place I never thought I'd get to go to, and again, I'm really regretting not going there before they did all this work to it. Like, as someone who used to do a fair bit of urban exploration stuff when I was younger, it would have been really cool to kind of get a ghost tour of that place before it had been fixed up. But regardless, it was definitely awesome to see it back to life. So yeah, I got there Friday, checked everything out. Practice was cool. Pit crew competition was fun. It wasn't the most exciting thing in the world, but it was good to see that brought back. It had been, I think the last proper one they said was sometime in the late 2000s. Yeah. I know they did some pit crew thing last year, but as far as a straight up pit crew competition, it had been, I think at least 15 years.
Well, for a long time they did qualifying for the All-Star race and kind of rolled that into the whole lap.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like I said,
it's not a straight up pit stop competition though. That was cool to see.
Not the same, but that was cool.
One thing I will say is I thought it was really funny that it was probably about a third full for the pit stop competition. Mm-hmm. Yet people were still sitting in their seats in like turn 2, and like just sitting all the way over there.
Yeah, I was like, and on like the backstretch too. It's like, what the fuck are y'all looking at?
Like, you can go anywhere right now.
Definitely didn't sit in our assigned seats for that day.
Yeah. So just a little pro tip for y'all out there. If it's empty, you can kind of go wherever you want. No one's going to come take you to jail.
If someone comes up and says, hey, this is my seat, move 2 seats down.
You'll be fine.
Jesus.
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
So that was Friday night. Saturday was, I was going to say, probably the real big test as far as my anxiety was concerned. But again, really... Oh, you know what?
You're not going to talk about what we did Friday night?
I was going to say, I just remembered. So after all the...
skipped over the parade hauler Thursday, too.
Yeah, Ashley did the parade hauler thing, which, if you want to mention that, now's your chance.
It was cool. I mean, it was my first time getting to go to, like, the actual downtown North Wilkesboro, and it's just... a small, quaint little downtown area. But the whole town, you could tell that they were really excited to have actual human beings back in their town. Like, all the little small businesses were getting really into it and trying to do little events and welcome all the race fans. Like, all the little shops on Main Street had banners in the windows saying, welcome back, race fans, and, like, brought out their, like, Dale Earnhardt cardboard cutouts and everything. And it was just cute. It was real cute.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, and speaking of downtown Wilkesboro, so yeah, Friday after all the race and stuff got done, I wanted to go and check out the Sam Bass Gallery that was put on right in the middle of downtown by... I know Harris, Lou, my buddy, and his lady Emily. I think they were the ones kind of in charge of it, or at least did most of the organizing. But there was Ryan Williams, who's another pal, and a few other guys like Ryan Pistana and 1 or 2 other graphic designers had a hand in setting this gallery up, along with Sam's son Mark. It's really cool. There were some original pieces. Some stuff was for sale. It was just a good time hanging out with those guys. Like, I spent a good amount of time with Harris last week in Darlington, and this time around, had a lot of interesting conversation with Ryan Williams. He's the head graphic designer at JRM, and someone I've known for a few years now, and kind of just talking about the business of merch and, why Xfinity merch doesn't show up to races and how much smaller the business is. He was telling me that his boss is basically the one that started Chase Authentics with Dale in the 90s, and he's going to be on the Business of Racing podcast that's, as part of the Dale Jr. download series. So I'm really excited to hear that, because as a merch guy, who saw how insane the 90s merch business was compared to what merch is in 2023. I would love not just to hear that guy's stories, but to pick his brain myself. Like, I'd love to get a chance to sit down and talk with anybody who was a part of the business back then. So that was a really good time getting to hang out with those guys. And so Saturday was, again, the big test. I actually woke up I woke up at like 7 o'clock just because A, my body kind of naturally does that, and B, I did want to do a tiny bit of flea marketing, and while everybody else was getting ready, I did find a cool Hut Strickland shirt and a couple NASCAR things at this wild Mexican flea market that had a bunch of goats and chickens flying around all over the place. So that was unexpected.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so Saturday, that's when the real action was going to start, and we got there. We didn't make it in time for truck qualifying. Didn't need to be there all day
at like
long.
10:30.
Yeah,
you don't need to see that.
Yeah, didn't need to see that. But so we had parking passes in the blue lot, which was the cheapest lot. It was $60 for the weekend. I think it was also technically the farthest one for the track, but you had a tram that came in and all that. So we were cutting it a tiny bit close, but the actual process itself was very easy. Pretty painless. We drove up. The parking lot itself was like 5-6 miles past the speedway. Some old corporate offices. You get in a tram, takes you through the back roads and dropped you off right at the backside of turn 2. Again, totally painless. Zero traffic, no issues. In saying that, and this was true for Sunday as well, there was cash parking everywhere. We could have parked in that same lot that dropped us off for $25 a day, and actually had my car right there and not had to spend an extra half hour each way getting on this tram.
No shit.
Everybody that lived on those back roads had turned their yards into cash lots.
Yeah.
They were all like set up and taken out and.
Another time-honored Winston Cup tradition.
Right.
I think it was just one of those deals where everybody kind of had some fear that traffic would be insane and nobody's phones would work and this, that, and the other thing, and definitely, I don't want to say NASCAR kind of took advantage of the people traveling in a little bit, but part of me kind of thinks they did, especially with charging hundreds of dollars for some of these parking passes that people were getting. And yeah, I'll be going whatever happens there next year, and I will not be buying their parking passes. I'm just driving straight up because there was zero issue with that. There was literally no traffic anywhere. I'm sure leaving there was, and we, both days since we were taking the tram back, we didn't exactly rush to get out of the place. So I'm sure by the time we actually got back to our cars or got back to the bus, traffic had kind of, filtered out a bit. But compared to, I'm sure what I used to experience in New Hampshire and what Ashley experienced a couple years ago in Nashville, traffic was nothing at all like that. So a lot of fears were alleviated, and that took my anxiety level down quite a bit after Saturday. So
good.
That was a traffic deal.
I did see one guy who I guess he might have lived a little further from the track, who was having paid parking at his house, but he had his those 4x4 little mules or whatever.
Yeah.
He had one of those, and he was hauling a little trailer behind it that he had filled with hay, and he would just put people in the back of it and drive them up to the track from his house, going back and forth. I was like, okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, next year it is definitely the full-on real experience. We're doing all that shit. I'm not buying no fucking parking pass and riding on a bus.
I want to take a hay ride and get hay up my ass, but
so now on to the actual action itself. Truck race was cool. I mean, it was a good race. Would have been cool to see Bubba's, sneak out a victory there, but just like Sunday, it was kind of Larson's race to lose.
Oh yeah.
But it was a fun track. One thing that I personally was paying a lot of attention to was the way the trucks were using the new pavement on the flat coming out of turn 2 for extra traction. That was a thing that, as you watch the race go on, I don't know if Larson was the first to do it, but he was definitely one of them.
He was doing it every lap.
Yeah, but then everybody started doing it after
running the
him.
flat. Yeah.
The Cup cars didn't do that, but it worked for the trucks. We don't necessarily have to get too crazy deep into the racing action. I do want to talk about the guy that we sat next to, though.
Oh, yes, please do.
So we,
You make a friend?
We made a friend.
I sat right on top of him.
We definitely made a friend. Now, I should say, I didn't get his name. Ashley, you didn't get his name, did you?
I don't know. I only could understand like every other few words.
So
was that because of the alcohol, or was that because of
missing teeth?
Yeah, he wasn't drinking at all. I actually gave him a beer at one point because he didn't have anything with him. But so this guy, he was a North Wilkesboro local, and he was very nice. But he started talking to us, and he was telling us how he was at the last race, and he said he was catching feelings walking into the place and looking around because like the last time he went, he was with his. I can't remember if he said his uncle and his brother or his uncle and his dad or
I don't know.
Regardless, he was with a couple family members that were no longer with him. So to go back in there and get all sentimental, I'm like, all right, well, that's totally understandable. Of course, I would feel the same way if I was in his shoes. But in saying that, he was, like I said, a Wilkesboro local. He was missing all of his teeth. At one point, he told me that...
Just the top teeth.
Just the top teeth, but he said he had dentures, but he refused to wear them, and he said he told his wife that the only time you'll get them in his mouth is when he's in the casket.
Okay. I missed that conversation.
He told that to me. I don't know if you were around, but he told that to me. And again,
wow.
This guy told me. He told us he was 55, and he looked and sounded between 68 and 75.
He probably was 55.
Yeah.
But he said he was 55, and he kept referring to us as being half his age. It's like, motherfucker, your math is way off, bud.
Yeah, missing the top row will do that to you, but
yeah.
Good Lord.
So he definitely.
Sorry, that's just.
It's fine. I mean, he babbled quite a bit, but he was very nice.
But he was nice.
That's awesome. He also had what I'm assuming. I don't know if it was his kid or his grandkid, but he had like a 13-year-old child with him who couldn't give a fuck, and also he paid zero attention to this kid. Didn't talk to him once. Like he was just talking to us the whole time. This kid who's wearing like rainbow techno sweatpants and a whole fucking outfit in the middle of this sunny, bright ass day, and it was an experience. I mean, it was a fairly typical NASCAR crowd, but I mean, having a guy like that next to us, at least for Sunday or Saturday, made things quite a bit interesting. Speaking of fandom, I didn't mention this. Driving down on Friday, I stopped at, there's a specific Bojangles that I usually stop at that's like, I know where it is. It's right by this antique mall I like to go to. So I stopped in there and I walked in and ordered my food, go to sit down. I see a family wearing all NASCAR gear. The kid is wearing a Matty D shirt. And I was like, oh boy. So I just kind of looked at it, walked past with my food. Was like, somebody's going to North Wilkesboro, huh? And had a brief little conversation.
And then knocked the kid's cheerwine over into his lap.
I wish. So yeah, those are a couple random run-ins with fans that we had. But so yeah, the truck race was. Go ahead.
Man crush on.
Oh.
The other fan
man crush on who?
Pictures of.
Who?
The tribal and the hair.
Oh yes, there was another guy that was sitting in front of us, a couple rows down, and I don't know if I sent him to the group, but there was a bald. I shouldn't say he was about 98% bald. He had a couple little wisps, like tiny little tumbleweeds of hair on his head still that he was just holding on to, and he was covered in tribal tattoos.
You did send that guy over to us.
That guy was a trip just to be around. Didn't talk to him though. That was one I didn't need to know what was going on.
We didn't have time to talk to him. We were too busy talking to the other guy.
Getting gummed at by your new friend.
Mm-hmm.
But he did tell us like where Junior Johnson lived and like the little local breakfast spot where Junior Johnson used to go every morning and stuff like that. That was cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, I've sat next to way worse fans for sure.
While he had his shoes off and was like massaging his bare feet with his hands, and I'm thinking, dear God, please don't touch me.
Oh yeah, there was somebody else behind us too that they had their shoes off and just their bare ass socks on the grandstands, and our toothless buddy, since he didn't have teeth in the way, he kept licking his nose for whatever reason. Like I caught him, I don't know, at least a half dozen times doing that.
A life uninhibited by any inconvenience whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. But he did not join us on Sunday though. He was nowhere to be found. He said he didn't want to spend the money anyway, so that was fine.
That's fair.
He was missed.
Yeah. So after the truck race, we had a couple hours to kill, so we kind of just wandered around and hung out, and we ended up seeing, it had to have been Saturday. We saw Harrison Burton and Todd Gilliland just walking around. Like nobody noticed them. I called them out, and they came over and talked to us for a minute, and Harrison had to go buy one of his own hats. I asked him, because I saw him at the merch trail. He came back with a new hat, and I asked him, they make you pay for that? He's like, yeah, man. But they were very nice.
Tough swimming over there at the Wood Brothers.
Yeah.
It is rumored that maybe Zane Smith is going over there, though. So maybe Harrison's buying his way out of his contract one by one.
That's news to me. Interesting.
I just saw a little something on Instagram. Who knows if it's true or not, but it sounds like Harrison... The rumor is, and again, this is nobody I know personally has reported this, or nobody reputable, but the rumor is that Harrison might be heading over to Stuart Haas to take over for Eric Almirola when he's gone, and then there'll be a prominent truck driver with a championship hopping over. That's got to be Zane Smith, I would assume. But
interesting. See, the other Harvick, or I shouldn't say Harvick, the other Stuart Haas news or rumors that we heard were Josh Berry to the 4, which I guess we'll find out this weekend. That's coming up, yeah. Still can't believe that to be true, but he's signed up with their management, like Harvick's management company, and I hope something good happens for Josh, because he's great. I still think it's crazy that either Hendrick or Junior would let him go, but at the same time, I think especially in Junior's case, he can't, as someone who really got Josh's big break, for him to take over Harvick's ride, I mean, just as a fellow driver, it's like you almost can't let a guy pass that opportunity up.
Yeah, and not to get too into the conspiracy hole, but they do all have business together. Kevin Harvick also owns the Cars series along with Jeff Burton. So
yep, that's true.
And Junior, so it's a whole thing. So maybe they worked it out over beers one night, but either way, it sounds like that change is going to come, and we'll see if Harrison can hack it in the old Baconmobile if that does happen.
Mm-hmm. Now, prior to the heat races, like I said, we had a couple hours to kill, and they were starting to rain a little bit, and so we actually managed to get into the speakeasy, which I don't know how much you saw about that, but Wilkesboro set up this little speakeasy, which was sort of, they basically converted an office and one of the merch and concession stands into a little bar.
A single wide trailer, maybe.
Yeah,
I do with my office too.
When I heard they were doing this, I thought it was going to be some shack like behind turn 3 that you had to go walk down a hill to find, instead of just being a fucking door next to the hot dog stand that you had to wait in line to get into. That said, we caught it right just at the right time. We got in right before it started raining and hung out in there through the whole time it rained. Now, I don't think it rained very hard because they didn't lose the track, but it was nice to have a drink in there, cold ass fucking room, and not have to get rained on. But
yeah, it was the Call Distillery that you were talking about, Rob.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad to see those guys finally get that kind of exposure too. That family has been around Wilkes County for a long time, and that racetrack in particular. There's features in old Winston Cup broadcasts. I'll see if I can find the one I'm thinking of. I think it was the '96 race. They interview Grandpa Call, who was an old bootlegger, and now the family's taking it on, and now they're a big sponsor of the race. And I met a couple of those guys that we snuck in a few years back. Super nice, salt of the earth, good guys trying to do something for the county, and seems like they finally got their shot to really be a part of something huge. So
yeah, I saw their name on a lot of things over the week. So
yeah,
decent moonshine too.
Yeah, I had some apple pie drink. It was very good.
Yeah,
very tasty.
That's the hangover juice right there. What got you, True Love, when you were
that was Sunday. We'll get to that.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't mean to jump ahead in the script here, skippity pages, but
so after we had our drink, we noticed on TV that we're going to run the wet weather tire, so we hopped back out and got in the stands for that. And trying to think, we actually ended up watching from start finish line for a good bit of that.
In turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, we had seats in turns 1 and 2, but
of the rain tires, but then we moved.
Yeah, we kind of we were able to bounce around a bit because it was definitely not full capacity at that point.
Yeah, it cleared out a little after the rain.
Yeah.
And like I said, as far as both this race and Sunday, I mean, it was what it was. There's plenty of other people that can talk about the tires and this car and all the other shit. I mean, it was what it was. I kind of knew. I figured what was going to happen. It was going to be just another short track race like every other bad short track race we've had with the new car, and kind of was. But in saying that, this weekend overall, to me, and I'm sure most other fans that were actually in attendance and made the effort to go will probably say the same thing. It wasn't necessarily about the racing. It was about this happening. It was about this track getting resurrected. It was about those of us being to relive history, relive the past, and be a part of this experience. I have to say, I hope they fix it. I hope Xfinity runs there.
Definitely.
I hope things get better for whatever happens there next year. But I know we wanted to be there for this moment, and to me that meant more than the actual racing itself. So that was really cool. Leaving wasn't too bad. Like I said, we kind of let the crowd filter out a little bit. And
you guys don't want to talk about Kyle Larson just laying an ass whooping?
Well, I mean, I guess that was Sunday. I mean, he didn't do that. Didn't do that Saturday.
We're still back in time on Saturday.
Sorry, my brain just jumped ahead to the good part, but
but anyway, so yeah, Sunday, Sunday we made our way back to the track early.
Big day, great weather.
Yes. So and now here's where I'll let Ashley tell her story, because again, our Sundays were very different.
They were very different.
And I'll let her get her
I have
her
no
story
idea what
out.
Brien did most of the day Sunday, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
You curled up in the shuttle in the corner or something?
There's a couple iffy spots. Sunday we got there. Jeremy, my friend that let us crash at his house for the week, wanted to get there early enough to see Tim Duggar play, who plays at a lot of races.
Oh, cool.
And Dierks Bentley was the big headliner for the pre-race concert that day. And I had an old friend from 15 years ago, from when I lived in Atlanta and was part of that music scene, who used to play in a bunch of bands, who has been working on Dierks' crew for the past 9 years. So he was there running the stage and got me a pass to come and hang out on the main stage to just watch the show from up there, which was a very cool, unique experience.
Yeah, I saw that on the internet, and I was wondering how the hell you got up there.
Yeah. Yeah, so huge crowd too, for the stage that they had for the concerts and some of the driver Q&As. It was in a big grass field that naturally tiered down, and they had the stage at the bottom, and so people could just sit up the whole hill and have
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, watch Dierks Bentley, who I don't give a fuck about, but still cool. And while I was up there, I looked, and also standing backstage was Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Amy and the girls, and they were there to see Tim Duggar. And I've never met Dale Jr., and as soon as I saw him, I started physically shaking because I only have one beer in me, so I was very nervous. And I was like, fuck, this is my one chance to meet Dale Jr. So I got up the courage to go over there and ask him for a picture, and man, he was just as nice, polite, and humble as I had ever hoped and dreamed, and took a nice picture with me and called me ma'am, and that alone was worth the whole trip for me. But yeah, while I was there, I had free reign on Dierks Bentley's beers. All the Budweiser I could hope and dream. And
you got it right. That's what you do, folks. If you make it backstage, those beers are going to get refilled for an artist of that size. So you got to make sure you take as many as you can and stow them away in your little tum-tum. And is that what you did, Truelove?
That's what I did. I just kept bringing them out, filling up that cooler. And my friend kept saying, hey, get a beer. Hey, get a beer. But before Dierks took the stage, I guess it's custom for the crew to take a shot of whiskey together.
Oh, hell
My
yeah.
old ass has not taken a shot of whiskey in years and years.
Did we not shoot whiskey in Charlotte? I thought we did.
No, I refused.
Shit. All right.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
I
all
think I took
that-
your shot. That's right. Never mind.
Yeah, all that on an empty stomach to kickstart my day. And then after that ended, I went back out into the crowd and got my cooler back and where my Bojangles hard sweet tea was, and started in on that. And I was just
Well, let's just say I had to sit through this whole fucking show that I didn't want to even fucking sit through. The Ashley's cooler. I'll just be back there for a song or two.
Wait, she made you hold the cooler?
Oh, well, we're getting into this because I didn't say shit about it. So now we'll get into it on the podcast. So Jeremy and I we were like, she's like, oh, I'm gonna go backstage. I'll do a little social media shit and I'll head back out. So
I don't think that's what
listen, I know how this goes with these situations. Sometimes, especially in a situation like that where there's friends and Dale Jr.'s there and blah blah blah. Our phones didn't work that great. There was Wi-Fi in the track that worked okay once we were in there, but outside the track didn't work that well. So Jeremy and I had to sit through this whole fucking Dierks Bentley show. Couldn't give a shit about this guy. This is not my type of country music. So I sat through this whole fucking show with her cooler, waiting for her. She never comes out. Eventually, I find her. She totally forgot about me and went to her other friends.
my phone didn't work.
But you didn't. But the thing is, you didn't come back to the spot where I was standing the whole time waiting for you.
Like I remembered where that was.
Well, regardless,
Phones don't tend to work after a few beers anyway, so.
Regardless, she forgot I existed, and I was stuck there with the cooler. So once I finally found her,
there's no
what's
way
that?
Brian sat through this concert, so he's definitely not still here.
Oh, okay. That's
fair. That's a fair assessment.
That's the assessment. Okay, so after I found her, I got the fuck out of there because I needed to go do my own thing for a little while. While she went and did her thing. So I kind of wandered around and checked out the cars. There was supposed to be another like vintage outfit contest, but I couldn't find it anywhere. Not that I was going to enter, but I was at least curious to see what that was going to be like. I think that the two regrets I have, I didn't wait in line to meet Bobby Allison, which I probably should have done because that was an option. And then there was also a go-kart track way down the hill that I kind of wanted to go check out, but I also didn't feel like walking all the way down this fucking hill to go
with Ashley's cooler.
Oh no! At this point, she had her cooler back, so I was free and clear. Because Jeremy had left also. He was like he wasn't dealing with waiting for either, so he went to go do his thing. I did my thing.
I would have just taken the cooler with you.
Yeah, we all. Okay, well,
I would have found it later.
God forbid I try to be a good friend and actually
thank you.
wait for you.
I'm sorry, I did not realize that it turned into a whole thing.
Yeah, so that was that. But so
Anyway,
prior to the
I
race,
met Bobby Allison.
yeah.
Was he backstage at Dierks Bentley?
No, bless his heart, he was barely able to sit in a chair.
Yeah.
So yeah, prior to the race, like I said, Jeremy and I ended up sitting in the stands and just talking and having a good time. I mean, he and I, while we come from different backgrounds, we also seem to have a good amount of stuff in common and just have a lot of life experiences in common. So he was awesome. Like, definitely I was psyched to meet him and hope to get to hang out with him again. And it was a really good time hanging out with him. Eventually, old Truelove, I don't know, again, Explain the hour or two prior to the race and where you were at, because we didn't know where the fuck you were. I think it wasn't till after the Open is when you finally showed up.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So then once I had my cooler back, apparently, I drunkenly got in line to go meet Bobby Allison, who was there with Donnie and Will Cronkite. And,
that's awesome.
So they were just sitting there. The line wasn't that bad at that point, You just walk up, the lady takes your phone, and you take a picture with. Like, Will seemed to have his senses about him. He was talking a little bit, but Bobby, Lord, I'm just not sure. There's just not much going on there anymore. Like,
he is
just sitting there,
super
smiling and just happy to be there.
Oh, that's awesome. And, at least
I've never met him, so I was just happy to be like in his presence to get to experience that before,
that man has long outlived his sons, which is insane to me.
Fucked in its own regard.
Yeah.
And then Donnie too. I said talked to Donnie for a second. I was like, yeah, I met you last year at the Moonshine Festival. And he was like, oh, yeah. He was like, I was drinking a lot that day. I was like, okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that was neat. That was, But after that, God, what happened after that? I think I went inside to go get food. Because at that point, all the free beers and the whiskey and the zero food was really starting to take its hold on me. And I got a couple barbecue sandwiches, scarfed those down, and then ran into someone else that a new friend I'd made that week, and was watching the open from the front stretch, and all of a sudden all that beer and whiskey and barbecue sandwiches started doing a number on my stomach. And I was extremely nauseous.
Oh, no.
Sit down and start chugging water. And the more water I chugged, the more nauseous I felt.
Yeah, that doesn't always help.
So,
oh, no.
Watched the open, kind of, sort of. And then eventually had to retire to the bathroom to puke up everything. Literally everything. So after that, I felt great. But I also stopped drinking. I didn't drink any more alcohol that day after that. But I went and...
You didn't use your get out of jail free card?
No. I did not want to see the Wilkes County jail. Bought a hot dog, hamburger, went and found Jeremy and Brien in our seats eventually. And yeah. Oh, wait. No, there was one point where I ran into some other dude and he gave me a shot of Fireball. I don't know. Sunday was a mess.
Sounds fun as hell.
Yeah.
See,
After I puked, I felt great.
As the driver all weekend, of course I drank, but I mean at the same time it was like, I had 8 beers in an 8-9 hour period. I was just nice, just pacing myself and having a good time and hanging out. But thankfully I didn't have any of those issues all weekend, so I'm glad I avoided that. But I guess that leaves us to, we'll make a quick couple comments about the race. Now, first off, before we talk about the actual race, I want to make a quick mention of Noah Gragson. This motherfucker.
Oh, shit.
It's like every single thing he does that's like, oh, okay, he's all right. Then he'll do something, 2-3 other things that just make me fucking hate him.
Yeah.
And Noah got interviewed by our mutual friend Jay for, I believe, Racing America is what Jay works for now. But he gave an interview on Friday where you could tell he didn't want to fucking be there. He was frustrated with his car. He was frustrated with the track. He called the whole weekend Firefest 2.0, which is probably one of the most disrespectful fucking things you could say about your sport.
I will be booing Noah Gragson for the rest of the year and probably next year.
Absolutely embarrassing. And I'm glad he won the fan vote so he could suffer through those fucking 200 laps.
I was gonna make a point to say that when I heard them announce him after all that bitching, it's like, congratulations, Noah, you're on the show. And I don't know if you guys realize this. They announced it by calling the driver directly in the car on television. So nobody knew who won until Clint Boyer cues up Noah Gragson in the car. He's like, you're in the big show, buddy. And he's just like, oh, good. Hell yeah. Thank you, fans. It's like, good. Fuck you, little shit.
Yeah, I just... Again, I know people are fans of him, and there are reasons for that, but I don't get it because it's just... I couldn't believe... Because it couldn't have been further from the truth. I mean, granted, did most phones not work that well? Of course. That happens at fucking other tracks too, not just North Wilkesboro. And again, there was Wi-Fi that was somewhat functional in the track, so it's not like you couldn't still use social media and do some of this phone stuff. And traffic wasn't really that bad. There's no reason for that. I just can't believe. I'm sure he got all sorts of talking to by his bosses and NASCAR over that because it was just so fucking disrespectful and so shitty. And again, glad to see him suffer through 200 laps.
I'm still a fan of Noah. That's not going to change. But I felt like that whole interview was just like I don't know, his immaturity coming through. And
he's got a lot of he's got a lot of that to work out still.
I think
clearly.
people, and again, this is my favorite thing about Noah is his honesty, and I appreciate him saying those things really from a standpoint of I want everyone to kind of speak their mind and be honest if they're asked a question and not give the sort of politically correct answer that you're supposed to give. I like that about Noah, and I like that he kind of does whatever the fuck he wants. But he's always been kind of a chud a little bit. He's definitely kind of strikes me as sort of a frat boy asshole.
Mm-hmm. And those are exact types of people I'm not a fan of.
Yeah. So again, I think I don't wish ill on him by any means, but he's certainly this is a nice reminder that this guy is not the cool Tim Richmond motherfucker everyone tries to make him out to be, or he tries to make himself out to be.
Yep,
he is
1000%.
kind of a little shit. And but again, as long as he keeps being a little shit and keeps being honest, I'm fine with it. So, but yeah,
I mean, the thing is, there's a difference between being honest and just being blatantly disrespectful and stupid, and that's what he was. So.
Yeah, but there was a good chance, like given how things went previously with the traffic, he could have been right about at least that part of the.
And he did give the interview before.
Yeah, but I was happy.
A couple crazy days.
He did, yeah. That was after the Cars race, I believe. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Come on, man. What are you thinking? Like, give it a chance. Talk shit later if it was bad. Yeah. And I'm glad he had to sit through the whole thing. He didn't get to go home early to go sit at Hooters or whatever he does on a Sunday night. Saeed's.
And yeah, so I mean, and getting to the race, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, there's not a whole lot that I think we need to say. There's
not much to say.
Yeah, there's not much to say. I mean,
there's a little bit to say.
It was interesting. I mean, I guess it was kind of fun to watch Larson, run through the field, the one run he fucking had.
0%
it's
fun.
So much funnier knowing how hungover and fucked up you were at Truelove and having to sit through that.
So I was like chugging water, trying to sober up, trying to get my life back together, and having to just sit through that. I was like,
Larson running the fucking flat, lap after lap. Oh, what a show! I gotta be honest, like I enjoyed it. My Larson fandom aside, I really enjoyed it. I think it was about what you could expect for a short track race with this current package.
Right.
It really was reminiscent of a lot of the old races from back in the day. And honestly, I think if you expected something different, you probably never watched a race in North Wilkesboro before, because that's just kind of how it goes. And especially like if you put all the pieces together, I think we got a pretty damn good show, and I think watching any driver come through the field like Larson did, and it wasn't just him. Ty Gibbs made up some positions, and there was some movement. You could get around.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, whatever people are imagining. And I think everybody thinks something's a bad race if it doesn't end in a green-white checker these days, if you ask the internet. So
see that I'm with a lot of people in that sense where it's like, no, I don't want to see every race finish like that. But no, there wasn't much passing. It was just single file most of the race. I think I heard DW said that this is how it always was there, and it's like I've watched my share of 90s races. Yeah, did you have Jeff Bodine lapped in the field? Yes, but was there also passing in technically more than one groove? Yes, again, it's this car, and we so many other people with so much more knowledge talk about it, so we're not going to waste time. I don't want to waste time talking about it. Yeah. It is what it is.
One thing I will say about DW, since you brought him up, it was fucking awesome to have him back in the booth.
Yeah, I heard a lot of good things about that.
And he just kept bringing up Brett Bodine winning there to Larry Mack. Just over and over. Yeah, you got a couple wins here, don't you, Larry? At least one. Just like ragging on him, and Larry's like, I'm not going to talk about it, essentially. So, but yeah, what a breath of fresh air. And I would say that it, for all the complaints that people have about Clint Boyer, I feel like DW is the guy that sort of evened him out a little bit. And I think DW was good because he wasn't trying to play a part, and I think Clint was probably a little better because he wasn't trying to play a part either, because there was two of them up there and they were just kind of jawing and having a good time. And that's probably, in my opinion, the best broadcast of the season as far as the Fox booth is concerned. But that's just me.
I don't get to see any of the broadcasts. I want to go back and just to see the broadcast, not for the race so much. But
yeah. So I mean, that was the race. For as good as Larson was all weekend, I gotta say probably the second best driver had to have been Bubba Wallace. Did great in the trucks and almost snuck a win out of that. And he did very well in the All-Star race. And I will say, it's only the second race of the year I've been to, but the boos for him were substantially worse and also just sounded meaner and darker at Wilkesboro. And obviously, you know, some fans cutting his radio after the race, and it just felt weird. Like Darlington, you know, he got mixed reactions, but he gets mixed reactions everywhere. But it was definitely almost all boos at the track, and that was quite a bummer to hear. And you know, him flipping off a friend of his, you know, outside the view of the camera, and all the controversy, quote unquote controversy that's created. Like, again, the only people who are talking shit about all that stuff are the racist redneck asshole fans that NASCAR still has. And you know, it's just insane to me how much shit he gets still by the, I don't even want to call them DARFs, because it's beyond.
Well, that's not being a DARF. That's being an asshole. Yeah. And again, it's okay to hate on Bubba Wallace for other reasons. There's plenty of reasons to not like that guy. Yep. But that ain't one of them. Like, get the fuck over it. That's the I'm for Bubba's sake, I'm glad he's having probably the best season so far his career. You know, he's got to win a couple more races, but I mean, he's been very consistent, very fast all this year. He's in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be shocked if he didn't make the playoffs with a win or two before the regular season's over with. But speaking of DARFs, there were a couple DARFs.
We had a direct hit this week, folks.
I mean, there were so many DARFs, really, but there were two quick ones that right off the bat. So Saturday night, I tweeted in the stands about the rain delay, because I guess there were some rain cautions or something. This is while the cars had the wet weather tires on them. I tweeted how this is reminiscent of the Bristol rain delay during the dirt race last year, because Ashley and I were there for that, and during those rain delays, it was barely fucking sprinkling. And you guys are on dirt. Why it didn't make any fucking sense why they weren't running then, and I felt the exact same way during the All Open when that shit was happening. Right. So some fucking idiot decided to respond to me, whatever the hell I tweeted. He goes, "That's what you see. What people at the track are saying is it's picking up." Now, I'd already posted photos of me at the fucking track that weekend. So I replied, "I'm 15 feet from the flag stand right now," because that's where I was. "It's not raining?" he asks. I go, "It's sprinkling." And his final response was, "I don't know what to tell you. Listen to the radio chatter. You're on your own. Track's wet." Like, motherfucker, I am at the fucking track.
I am the track.
Yes. Like, I was like, all right, put my phone down now. And
that morning,
Wi-Fi was working then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that morning Brian made us make a special trip to Walmart so that he could buy ponchos in anticipation for the rain, and it wasn't even raining hard enough for us to use the ponchos.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure, again, you know, nice, better to have them than to not have them.
I'm sorry.
Especially when they have literal rain tires. And I know I can hear people out there, well, they're actually wet weather, you know, just, come on. It wasn't raining that hard, no matter by what metric.
Yeah. And then the other DARF that I pulled up, and this was just the first stupid comment I saw. I mean, there's been many, many since, but this was the first stupid one I saw after the race on Sunday. Some guy on Twitter said this: "When Texas Motor Speedway has 40-50,000 for a race, it's a bad crowd and looks bad. But when North Wilkesboro seats 35,000, it's awesome and great for the sport." Like,
yeah, because the fucking grandstands are full, genius.
There's so many fucking different angles you can go with this argument, but it's like, yeah, this motherfucker does not understand what optics are, doesn't understand like the history of the sport, doesn't understand, you know, again, just the geography, like that part of Texas. The population is, I don't know how many more million, or not millions, but like hundreds of thousands of people compared to Wilkes County.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Wilkes,
I know he got a lot of shit.
To the middle of fucking nowhere to get to that track. There's no attractions bringing anyone out there besides that racetrack.
Yeah, I know he got a lot of other shit from other people that called him out for his stupidity, but I mean, there was a lot of, like, social media was just a field day on Monday as far as everybody's opinions and everything. And again, I'll go back to all the people that weren't there. I'll go back to what I said before we got into all this. Was we did not go to this for the racing necessarily. Again, I hate to say I knew what I was getting into, but I knew what I was getting into with the short track race in those cars. But it was awesome to be part of that experience. Like there've only been a handful of like real historic moments that I've been able to witness as a NASCAR fan over almost 30 years. Yeah. And this was one of them.
Certainly.
And it felt really, really cool to be there. And you know, while I didn't put a deposit down on next year, they were taking deposits on whatever race they have next year. Obviously, nothing's been announced, whether it be an all-star race or a points race. Who the hell knows? But they're going to have something there. I mean, they put $18 million plus into that track, and the track is fully functional again. I see no reason to not have all 3 series run there. I will say I was watching, the Iceberg did a video on this, kind of, you know, the options as far as what to do with the track, and he made a great point. Whether you keep it as an all-star race or another points race, May should just be all home track month. Like, let the team stay in North Carolina. All the races are in North Carolina. You know, give them that break because they're traveling all over the country the rest of the year. Let them have a month where they're close to home, and you know, you could fill up the month with races in North Carolina. I think that'd be a great idea.
I mean, that's a good little swing right there. If you're going to do Darlington, North Wilkesboro, into Charlotte, that's a throwback month right there. If you want to keep that theme, you know.
Yeah, technically Darlington is South Carolina, but I mean, it's close enough.
Right.
It's like an hour or two from where they're at, so close enough. But the other thing he suggested, which I don't know if I'd wait 3 years for this, but he suggested keep it as the All-Star race until the 30th anniversary of the track closing down, and then that's when you get your points race. Like, that would be a cool moment. Either way, it sounds like they're going to be back there next year. So I'm excited to see what happens. And again, hopefully by this time next year, not just for Wilkesboro, obviously, but you know, hopefully they figure out what to do to make these short tracks run better for the fans at least. And but I'll be there regardless. So it was cool. But overall, great weekend. Definitely. My anxiety was a little bit overblown after the experience, and you know, again, very, very encouraging to see all that we saw, and I can't wait to go back next year.
Hell yeah! How about you, Truelove? You gonna go back next year? Are we all going? Are we going to North Wilkesboro?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I'll go back.
Well, I mean, you're the one that you know. Yeah. Now you have to get involved, but yeah, we'll definitely.
I do, yeah. Like I said, I'm the only one who's seen the track in its state of disrepair. I never saw racing there, but I definitely saw it when it was overgrown, and I might cry a little bit if I actually see it. It was a special experience to see it when it was abandoned, and now that it's full and functioning again, yeah, I think it's mandatory. So
yeah, I think the most powerful moment for me the whole week was the day that they very first had the Cup garage set up, and walking down there and seeing that open air Cup garage. And it was. I just kind of stood there in awe for a little while, just taking it all in.
That's awesome. That's even more old school than North Wilkesboro originally was.
and one point too, I want to make real quick, especially now that the weekend's over. You got to think about, you know, all the stress that all of us fans had as to what this weekend was going to be. It wasn't until I was at the track that I kind of thought about it. In '96, when it closed down, the track was at its capacity. Like, the sport was at its peak then. And, you know, if they could handle it then, they could definitely handle all that traffic now. And especially there's so many more different ways to prepare. And I don't even know. I don't know if the race was actually fully sold out. It was probably like 90 to 95 because there were a handful of empty seats. So it technically was even not full. But yeah, now that I've been there and
standing around too, not in their seats, like standing.
Yeah,
there's a lot of room to stand too. So
that's fair. But now that I've been there and thought about that, yeah, I mean, there's really nothing to really worry about as far as traffic and all that shit's concerned. So, you know, if that was something that you were worried about, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it functioned better than some big fancy new racing facilities that I've been to. Like, they had their shit together better.
But yeah, I think that brings us to the end of this show.
No video of the week this week, unfortunately. They've all been too busy, and as have I. So
tired.
Yeah.
I will say that, Rob, you're gonna have to give me the link again. I know there is a history of kind of the IRL IndyCar Split video that I wanted to use for this video of the week, but again, we're very busy. I'm gonna throw that on the video of the week playlist anyways.
Yeah, we can talk about it next week, and sort of in retrospect. Maybe that's a way we can, a fun little thing we can do is you guys watch the video, and we can all talk about it after we've watched it next week. And you, the fan, can as well. And if you have any questions or anything about it, you can hit us up in all the usual ways, DMs, Twitter, all that shit. But yeah, it's a documentary called 500 Miles Apart. It came out on the advent or right after the split between CART and the IRL happened. It's an ESPN documentary. It's really well done, and it's just a really nice little snapshot of the open wheel world at that time, and sort of the mythology around Indianapolis, and it really deals with the sort of the emotional side of and the almost metaphysical side of things when it comes to the way people feel about racing. And I guess it does kind of tie into North Wilkesboro, because a lot of NASCAR fans just had that experience seeing that facility open up again for the first time in so many years. And this video kind of touches on that and how families were split between going to the two races. And of course, for those of you who might not know, that when CART and IRL split, the CART guys did their own race on Memorial Day in Michigan, just up the road. So there were two races at the same time, and it really tore the sport apart. Yeah,
the real US 500, which I have. I don't know if I'm going to check the store right now to see if I still have it, but I had a T-shirt from the Michigan race, and it was very funny. I figured somebody would have snatched that up to wear to Indy as an ironic thing, but I don't think anybody has yet.
There's a lot of takes, especially, sort of after the fact, on how it went down, who was the good guy, who was the bad guy, was anyone really the good guy in that situation. But this is a really honest, in-the-moment look from both sides, and honestly, no one's really wrong, I would say, other than the quest for money and power. But we'll put that up there, and we'll talk about it next week, because there's definitely some funny shit in there too. So
yeah. So yeah, I think that'll be it for this week's trip to Applebee's. As always, I have been a little more active on Twitter, so follow us at meetme@DeBees on Twitter, where I've been calling out Spotter Brett and other racers' political takes. I think I'm going to start to get real spicy on that account now, so if you guys want to get in on that, by all means. And yeah, Speedway screens, all that stuff, yada, yada, yada. You probably know who I am by now, so figure it out.
Yep. You can find me, of course, These Wild Planes on the internet, and RobMotes_unofficial. Real quick before we get out of here, since I don't really have anything to talk about, you may have heard me just open a beer with a knife. I'm going to shotgun a beer live in honor of the Kyle Larson ass whooping that you guys had to sit through. Truelove, you can take your headphones off now if you want, because it might make you throw up. But
I'm just gonna disconnect from the chat.
God, as a Larson fan and as a short track fan, it was fucking awesome to see that. So this is for you, Kyle, and this is for you, Caitlin, who also did most of the shotgun. By the way, real quick, y'all see Michael Waltrip shotgun a beer?
Yeah.
Oh.
That was another one that I met backstage on Sunday.
I'm not surprised to hear that. Yeah, Mikey, I guess it was the first time he ever tried to shotgun a beer. He did the thing where he two-handed it and kind of forgot about the weight distribution and spilled it all over his little polo. But a good effort, and you know what? He made the damn beer himself. So here's to you.
We all had a long day, Mikey.
Here's a shotgun. Well, I'm going to do this while you give your little plugs, Truelove.
Oh, yeah, thanks. It's Snake Mountain _Truelove. Yeah. I had God, by the end of the week, probably like 20 or 30 random people from the internet come up and be like, "Are you that girl from the Instagrams?" I'm like, yes, I guess. I don't know. But they were all super nice, made a lot of new friends at the track. Probably going to change my Instagram handle, though, at some point, so that people quit asking me if I'm Snake Mountain.
What kind of first name is that?
Yeah. But yeah, if you see me at the 600, say hey. Because I also got a lot of DMs from people saying I was too scared to come up to you. Like, what? Just say hey. Give me a beer. No shots.
I'll have to put that on a t-shirt for you.
Yeah, please.
So yeah, that's this week's trip to Applebee's, and we'll be back next week with more racing action. So
we got a big time weekend, y'all. The Indianapolis 500, the greatest spectacle in motorsports. Good God, I'm so excited. And then a whole night at Charlotte. NHRA is happening too. And then, of course, my favorite Grand Prix of them all, Monaco, is happening in the morning. Even if you're not a Formula One fan, it's a cool thing to throw on at 7 a.m. and it's an excuse to crack a beer and just have a true full day of racing. So,
yeah. So, cool. Enjoy the racing weekend, folks, and we'll check in with you next week.
Hell yeah.
Hey.